What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes? Welcome back to another episode of your potentially favorite Nigerian podcast. Bear with me, your host, General Prime. I hope everybody's chilling, enjoying the summer, even though it's the worst time of the year for me. Like I always talk about how I hate summer and how always humid and hot and sticky. It's all I've never been a fan of summer, but yeah. I hope you extroverts and outgoing people are enjoying the beach and the sun and the humidity and all the nonsense and shenanigans that comes with it. In my previous episode, I was, this is going to be a continuation actually of the previous episode where I was talking about how I no longer believe in God as a Nigerian and trying to give my reasons for why I don't believe in God. So I talked at length in the previous episode, but I didn't really, I wasn't really as captivating. I just say all these things as they come into my head. I don't really have any scripts. I don't really there is no formality to them. I just say them as they come. So forgive me if I sounded, not as coherent as you'd expect, people who say these kind of things to sound, but bear with me. That's just how I am. But so today we are going to continue talking about it, and hopefully today I'm going to sound more coherent. I'm going to buttress my points or be a little bit more elaborate with my perspectives and my points and stuff like that. So here we fucking go. So at the ending of the last episode, right, the last point I made was about Nigerian pastors and how 99.999% of all Nigerian pastors are fake because they actually don't believe in God. Like the the pastors we have, like the televangelists and pastors that run mega churches in Nigeria, like the prominent ones and even the lesser known ones actually don't believe in God. Like don't actually believe in the God of the Bible. They don't follow the teachings of Jesus Christ himself. They already have this notion in their heads and in their minds that Nigerians first of all don't read. And so because Nigerians don't read, there is no not that Nigerians don't read. The country is so hard and so difficult and so rigid for people to have time to open their Bibles or any other books in general to actually just gain knowledge. And so because of this, they use it as an advantage. They use it to take advantage of the Nigerians that rightfully and, just rightfully don't have the time to, go through their Bibles. And I don't mean like the dictated parts that these pastors, dictate for their church members. I mean like going through the Bible, like from cover to cover, like from the beginning to the end, from the beginning actually to the end. So they give them, like very, very dictated parts and parts that are usually out of context. Like for example, there is this part, Malachi chapter 3 verse 9, right, where they always use to emphasize the paying of tithes and offerings and, and how every Christian or how every member of the church has to pay tithes so that, they'll be blessed by God. But if you read the entirety of Malachi chapter 3, it makes it, as in the context that's connecting it to paying of tithes is entirely different from the way Nigerian pastors put it. Do you understand? Like tithing is something tithing first of all has to do with your first fruits. And in those days when I know money was money as we understand it in the sense of modern day civilization to be, was something that was was used back then. But people still used to there were other forms of payments exchange, like trade by barter. And so people still used to exchange things that were valuable or things that had value to them, exchange it for other things that potentially had equally or higher value. Like for example, exchanging maybe cows for clothes or maybe gold for, I don't know, you understand what I'm trying to say. But this is what tithing was back then. Tithing just meant your first fruits, or should I say tithing just meant tithing was a different explanation of what money or exchange of goods and services was back then or were back then. But in this context now, in the modern day in our modern time right now, it has become something entirely different where pastors just interpret it and conclude that tithing has to be money. I mean, I understand that you're not going to. I understand that it would be kind of weird to, exchange like raw materials and all the goods and services and stuff like that. So the best way to do it is just like represent all of that stuff with money. But it doesn't actually mean that you have to like do it all the fucking time. Like if you read the Bible and you understand the Bible properly, you see that it wasn't something that was done every fucking time. It was something that was done at a specific time, maybe at the beginning of the year or maybe at the beginning of like some ritual that they were doing. It was something that it wasn't something that was done continuously. It was something that had its specific time to be done. But pastors don't, because Nigerians don't know that. Pastors use that as an advantage to, just scam Nigerians and misinterpret the Bible and go against what the teachings of Jesus actually is. Because and another thing again is that these pastors, right? They're so like as flawed as the idea of religion is or the idea of Christianity is. Jesus is still Jesus is still the blueprint of what it means to be good. Even though Jesus himself was like kind of a cheat code, like Jesus himself, for those people who believe that Jesus is actually God that came down in human flesh to just pretend for a short period of time to be human, and then he died and actually didn't stay dead because he's an actual God. Like even though that the entire idea of Jesus himself is flawed, fundamentally flawed, because if you investigate it properly, if you look at it deeper, Jesus is a God, right? Like I just said earlier, he's a God that came down to earth. However I want to interpret it, but he's a God that came down to earth. Not that this historically happened anyway, but according to what the Bible says, he came down to earth and he had the ability to like raise the dead, heal the sick, multiply food, walk on water, change water to wine. Like he had supernatural powers, right? This is something that no human being has. No human being has supernatural powers, regardless of how tricky or how sophisticated the sleight of hand might be or might look or might feel. There's no human being that has supernatural powers, but according to the Bible, Jesus did, because he was born without sin. Like he's the actual Son of God and God himself that came down in the personification of a human being. When he finally died, right, or should I say during his lifetime, they say that Jesus like was the holiest person that ever lived. But holy in what sense? Like, is it that he never had sex? Is it that he never got into trouble? Or is it that is it that he never faced everyday circumstances that would test his? I know I know the story about him being tempted by the devil, like in the wilderness and stuff like that. But those are just superficial. Those stories have their own flaws. But the idea of Jesus being being very holy and being without sin and being without all of these transgressions that human beings have every day. I mean, if you were God and you actually wanted to make that story right, you'd have stripped away all of his abilities, all of his supernatural abilities. You'd have actually made him like you'd have actually made him to be born with sin, so that now that he has this ability, this natural ability to be able to sin, it would even mean more if he, throughout the entirety of the 33 years that he lived, tried every day to overcome sin. Because you cannot tell me that this supernatural being called Jesus comes to earth and he's just and with all of his supernatural abilities, he just glides, as in with all of his supernatural abilities, he's able to overcome sin. It's not possible, because it's a cheat code. Jesus having supernatural abilities is a cheat code. It doesn't really count. And the fact that he died and still resurrected again, just like the whole thing, as in just makes the whole thing redundant, makes the whole sacrificial thing just so redundant. So, but yet, regardless of all of those flaws, right, Jesus is still somebody that people want to emulate. Jesus is still somebody that people want to be like. In fact, after his death and during, like, in during the time of the Roman Empire, when Christians were becoming to be we are beginning to become more prominent and more known in societies back then, and they were actually behaving like how Jesus actually behaved. The Romans started calling them Christ-like, and that's where the word Christians came from. So, but and people went out of their way to like help their neighbors. People went out of their way to be altruistic. People went out of their way to behave in a way that they believed Jesus actually behaved. Jesus was poor. He would give, like, Jesus is this kind of person that Jesus was this kind of person that, according to the Bible, he was meek, and he was reticent, and he was wise actually, and he was helpful, and he was understanding. He had a broader perspective of things. But that's not what we see today with Nigerian pastors. Nigerian pastors are wild. Nigerian pastors are, performative. They are very, very, like, there is no meekness to them. They don't even worship Jesus. They don't even worship the God of the Bible. Actually, what they worship is money. The Bible actually talks about how it is impossible for you to serve two masters. You cannot, because you'll be you won't serve them equally. You'll be unfair to one. You give less attention to one and give more attention to the other. So that's what pastors are doing. They're just using their worship and their love for money, or should I say, they're just using their their familiarity and their base belief in the God of the Bible to expand and to pronounce their love and their worship for money. So that's what I mean by when I say that these pastors don't follow the teachings of Jesus. Jesus was this kind of person that went out of his way to criticize the government, to criticize the people in power. But we don't see that today with Nigerian pastors. The best that they can do is give superficial comments on what the Nigerian government is doing. The best that they can do is there is no hint of there's no sense of patriotic activism that pastors engage in Nigeria. They love the cocoon that they've built for themselves. They love it so much that they themselves are even, I'll go as far as saying that they themselves are even scared of losing what they've built for themselves. And so they always keep their mouths shut. They always they always pretend that they don't see what is going on. They feel like because they've amassed themselves with wealth, they are above the suffering of the common Nigerian. And so you hear pastors saying that you hear pastors saying stuff like, don't vote for this person. If you vote for this person, you're the one that is going to suffer. I'm not going to suffer. Me, I'm a millionaire. I've been blessed by God. I have a lot of cars. I have a lot of wealth. I have a lot of private jets. So if I'm going to travel out of Nigeria and I'm going to live in abroad and this and that, all this nonsense that they say. So don't vote for this person. If you vote for him, you're the one that is going to suffer. But if you then think of it, it's like they are making it sound like the suffering, whatever outcome of whatever kind of government that Nigerians get, they are not going to feel it because they are not among us. Like it's annoying when they say that, when you hear pastors say that kind of thing. It's actually inconsiderate. Like, it's very, very inconsiderate of them to use those kind of languages when there is no, like, the pastors don't call out, they don't use wholeheartedly actually call out the corruption and the injustice and the insecurities that is going on in Nigeria. They don't. If they even have to, they do it very, very superficially. They do it on very thin surface levels, just so that people will not say that they are being silent. And it's sad because Jesus is somebody that went toe to toe with like the Roman government, even though the Jews actually believe that their Messiah has not yet come. But according to the New Testament, like, Jesus was this person that went toe to toe with the Roman government and criticized them for their misdeeds and their injustices and their maltreatment to the Jews and stuff like that. So another point I want to talk about is how Christians always equate God to a genie. Like, they always like to treat God like he's a genie. Like, oh, if I the only thing I just need to do is like they equate, as in they put God in this box of if I ask him of something, I am entitled to an answer. You understand? Like, they make God their personal assistant. the creator of this entire universe. So, bro, that is who they are making, who they've turned into their personal assistant. Because the Bible talks about how if you ask, you shall receive, and if you seek, you will find. But they take that, they blow that out of proportion, and then they believe that whatever it is at all that you ask for, as in the smallest thing, that you ask God for, that you are entitled to receive it because you're born again and because you died for your sins and all those stuff. Like there are even Christians that go as far as like always talking about how they have they always talk about divine favor. Like their idea of divine favor is like they have this entitlement that whatever it is that they ask for, or whatever it is that they've prayed for, they like there is no way that their prayers are not going to be answered. And it also ties to another point where it also ties to the point that Christianity actually destroys society, and in the sense that you see, Christians will leave their businesses, right? Nigerian Christians will leave their businesses, will leave their shops, will leave their places of work, and then spend days in church, spend days in their crusades. Like they go for these crusades, these like very, very giant crusades where they spend days. Then like they don't go home at all. They it's like going camping, right? And so they spend a lot of time there, and that's like they end up losing customers, they end up losing clients, their businesses suffer because there is no, like their businesses just suffer because of it. So this is what I mean by religion like destroying their society. If you go to, like, for example, now in where I come from in Port Harcourt, right, like every street corner there are churches. In every street corner you can see like let me see, like a building, and in that building, like in every single room in that building, there are different churches. In just one building, there are different churches in every single room in that building. So Christians have this mentality of having divine favor. And the divine favor is the belief that whatever they ask for, regardless of them not even putting in the work, they don't put in the work, they don't put in the time, they don't put in the sweat, they don't put in the sacrifice. They just believe that because Jesus Christ has paid for their sins and all of the whole Christian rhetoric, like they are now entitled to whatever they ask for, which is just weird. Another point that comes to mind, another reason why I don't believe in God, is because there are a lot of denominations, Christian denominations, and there are also a lot of apologists. For something that claims to be true, like if you look, something that's true doesn't need layers and layers of explanation for people to believe that it's true. For something that claims to be the one true religion, or that claims to be divine, or that claims to be impalpably spiritual, there are a lot of denominations in Christianity or in Christendom that tries their best to try to explain it. There are a lot of apologists that all these like intellectual apologists that try their best to try to explain the idea of God, or try to explain the Bible, or try to like make people understand what the Bible is trying to say. I said in my previous episode that if the creator of this universe, as in, one sad thing again is that humanity has put God in a box. Humanity has put God in this one thing, and this one thing is how people are supposed to know God as, or this one thing is how people are supposed to interpret what God is. And this one thing is like, if you don't subscribe to the ideology of this one thing, then there is no eternal life for you. There is no redemption for you. There is no peace for you. There is no happiness for you. There is no glory for you. So they've put God in this tiny box of Christianity, this tiny box of religion. And so in my previous episode, I was talking about how if the actual creator of this universe, right, the one that does not fit the box that these Christians have put him in, if him or it, whatever it is, wants to have a relationship with his creation, it's not going to be so superficial. It's not going to be so confusing. Actually, it's not going to be like, there will be oneness to it. There will be uniformity to it. It will be so certain. It will be so intrinsic. It will be so ingrained in us that there will be no doubt about it. Do you understand? Like there won't have to be different religions. Actually, first of all, there won't have to be different understanding of what one religion is. There won't have to be different denominations. There won't have to be people won't have to come up with their own versions. Like, for example, now Jordan Peterson, this is somebody that I used to revere a lot, that I used to even talk about how, like, this is someone that I used to respect a lot, Jordan Peterson, right? And then he went on this Jubilee show and he was talking, and then he was trying to debate with 20 other atheists. But he didn't want to call himself a Christian. He didn't want to, he was just like kind of being slippery. He didn't want to answer any question. He didn't want to actually have a meaningful and sensible and intelligent discussion with these people. He was just trying to meander, and he was being defensive during the debates. So these are the people that have their own, that as in everybody has their own interpretation, or everybody has their own understanding of what the idea of God is. But if the creator of this universe actually really did exist and wanted to have a relationship, or wanted to have like rapport with the creation, with his creation, it would be so obvious that we won't end up with grifters, we won't end up with charlatans, we won't end up with fakes, we won't end up with quacks, we won't end up with people that are hell-bent on deceiving for their own selfish reasons or for their own ulterior motives. It's something that will be certain. We won't even, like the Bible, I don't think that the creator of this universe will stoop himself so low to using something as trivial and as outdated as the Bible to convey his message, or to convey his like whatever it is that he wants from human beings. Like, it would be something a lot more deeper than that. It would be something a lot more profound than that. It would be something a lot more as in it would be something that will last for thousands of years. It will continue to be relevant for till the end of time. It won't be the Bible, because the Bible has been like adulterated for so much. The Bible has been co-opted. It's flawed. There are a lot of mistakes in it, and yet people still think that the Bible is the inerrant word of God, which unfortunately the truth of the matter is that it's just not the word of God. Also, we have things like science that end up disproving the very idea of what the God of the Bible is, or the very idea of who the God of the Bible is. We have science that disproves it. We have archaeology disproves it. We have biology disproves it. Physics disproves it. Paleontology disproves it. But sadly, Christians, or should I say Nigerian Christians, don't care enough about all these other aspects, or don't care enough about all these other forms of education and forms of information and levels of understanding. They just only subscribe and adhere to what the Bible says. Not even that, they just only believe that the Bible is the only thing that God has given to them that is valid, and that is the Bible is the only thing with the highest authority from God. And so they end up not listening. They are so close-minded. It's not even their fault that they are that close-minded. It's just that I don't know how else to explain it, but they just don't want to agree that there is something else that will maybe it has to do with shame. Maybe it has a lot to do with their sense of introspection. They believe that maybe if there is something that comes along and this thing rightfully dismantles their beliefs and shows, like, disproves it totally, that their beliefs are basically useless and nonsense and trivial, I think it will leave them empty. It will leave them like kind of more confused. It will leave them just hopeless. And so they stick to the nature of how Nigeria is, like Nigeria being this place that is essentially a hopeless place. I kind of can understand why people have this stubborn belief in God, because there is no one else that is coming to save them, but they just don't want to do away with the delusion that or do away with the delusion of God. You understand? They just don't want to do it because they know that if they do, then really, really, truly, truly, honestly, there is nothing else to live for. So people cling to the idea of God. People cling to the idea of this parent figure to save them, to, protect them, to, in a way, like I can't even blame Nigerians for how deeply religious they are. I can't even blame them because yeah, I always give example of other countries like the Scandinavian countries, and all these wealthy Western countries, right? That are mostly atheistic in nature. It's not like these countries. They don't. There's no need for God because they've been able to achieve most of what humans are supposed to achieve. They've been able to achieve that for themselves, and so there is no need for them to continue to believe in this superficial or invisible being that will someday come and protect them, or take them away from the suffering that they are in. But that is not that. So that is what it is. That is just what it is in Nigeria. The reason why a lot of people have this greed, I believe, or the reason why they are so ingrained in Christianity is because it's not even because they actually believe or they actually love God or they actually want to like worship God. It's because they are suffering and they don't want to suffer anymore. And they have been told that this entity is what can relieve their suffering. This entity is what can take their suffering away from them, their pain. And so they cling to it wholeheartedly. They cling to it whether they actually truly, truly, deeply believe in it or not. They just like cling to it and hope that things are going to pan out well for them. And it's sad that they are that gullible. In fact, humanity, what I've actually noticed, what I've come to realize, I was thinking of it the other day, is that humanity in its entirety, right? Imagine that humanity is like is a human being. Like in humanity, our collective humanity has been personified into a human being. I think humanity is like a teenager. Do you understand? Like if you look at the way we humans behave collectively, like the way things are going on in this world, how idiots are running our societies, how idiots are in like the highest seats of government, and they keep destroying the society, and they keep like causing wars and causing insecurities and causing problems. And it's like it doesn't, as in, it's like the people that are in charge don't have sense. That's how it is. That's how I usually look at it. Like you see someone that is the president of a country, and this person is doing it looks as if this person is doing everything in his power to make sure that he destroys his country. Like for example, now the president of Nigeria, right? This is somebody that in our country, people are dying of hunger, people are dying of starvation, there's insecurity. I mean, I've said this ad nauseum, I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll never stop saying it, right? Our president is like the most incompetent person ever to ever exist. And it's just somehow he managed to find himself, he managed to be the president of Nigeria, but yet he's the most incompetent person ever, right? And then he goes to St. Lucia, like one of these, I don't know where it actually is, but one of these, like, I don't know where it is actually. Let me not even try. So he goes to this place, and then they I don't know why they make him a knight. I actually don't even know why. Maybe he went there I don't know why he went there. And then he gives students in that place, like he gives them scholarships. Like the things that the guy does, just there is no sense to it. There is no reading. There is no pattern to it. It's just as how they say. How they always talk about how evil is senseless. Like evil is just senseless. So that's just how this guy is. The things that he does are just like they don't make any sense. So this is what I mean by humanity in general is a teenager, because normally teenagers don't have sense. They just act impulsively. They don't think before they act. They act and then maybe like ask questions later. So this is how collectively humanity is. That's why there are a lot of things that are there are a lot of problems on earth today, but it doesn't mean that it's going to remain that way forever. There will always be change. There will always be growth. So humanity is growing, and how you know that humanity is growing and humanity is getting better is because there are things that we used to do in the past and we used to consider normal in the past that we no longer consider normal again. For example, there are people now have more rights than they used to have in the past, even though there are some things like, for example, abortion that is still kind of like contentious in our society today. I don't think it's going to remain that way. I think that as time goes on, we are going to like resolve these issues. There are so many things, right? The treatment of the maltreatment of children, our relationship with psychedelic drugs. Like there's so many things that I cannot even like begin to remember now or begin to like pinpoint right now. But eventually, I believe that there are things that in the future we are going to look back at and laugh at, and just laugh at how ridiculous it must have been for us to not have figured out how to like go about them. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So, but in the case of Christian, and it's also going to affect religion. Do you understand? So, in the case of like I've talked about how gullible Christians are. You understand? Christians are very, very gullible in the sense that they just believe whatever it is that their pastors tell them, hook, line, and sinker, and they don't question it. They just take it on faith. They just believe that whatever it is that their pastors tell them, they just believe it on faith without actually ever investigating, without actually like using their brains to think for themselves. And it ends up most of the time it ends up being detrimental to them. You see Christians with children, like for example now in the Jehovah's Witness cult. It's not like it's a denomination in Christendom, but it's a cult. They don't allow the transfusion of blood. Like if somebody is sick and the person needs blood transfusion, they don't allow it. They would rather let the person die than for the person to to get blood. So these are the kind of things that they believe that ends up being detrimental to them. Instead of people to seek like actual medical help, they would rather go to their pastors for their pastors to pray for them. And then the pastors, I don't know, they have this like chip on their shoulders. They have this, I believe that most of these pastors are psychopaths, because within yourself that what you're doing is fake. Like you as a pastor, within yourself that what you're doing is fake. But even though it brings in a lot of money for you, right? At least you should still have you should still have like human sympathy and human empathy and human understanding. You understand? You should still have that, so that when like these people that they believe everything that you tell them, they look up to you in every way possible. In fact, there are women that disrespect their husbands in their marriages, right? They disrespect their husbands, but then they worship their pastors. Like it happens in Nigeria, where women will report their husbands to their like it fucks with my, as in women will report their husbands to their pastors, and pastors always take advantage of that. You see where pastors have relationships with women, and women are they're not logical beings. Forgive me for saying that. It's not like I'm sounding sexist or anything. It's just the truth. Women like they lead with emotions. They don't lead with logic, and so they allow pastors to take advantage of them, both physically, sexually, and in any other way that you can think of or you can imagine. They allow these pastors to like take advantage of them, and to them they don't see it as anything. You know how like a woman can wear a bikini at the beach and she doesn't see it as anything, but then when she's like on the streets and let me say the wind blows her skirts, she will like try to like cover herself. Like there is no, I don't know if so that's just the same way that they behave that's just the same way that women behave in church. Like they will allow the pastors to do whatever they want to do to them. But I don't know, man. This I don't know. Now, there's another point I want to talk about again, and that is the issue of heaven. Christians always believe that they are not of this world, that they are just visitors in this world, and their home, their real home, or should I say their real reward, is in heaven. And there is this idea of the afterlife where the bad will go to hell and then the good will go to heaven. But you ask them this question. I always ask Christians whenever I have the misfortune of debating one. I always ask them, like, what happens in heaven? Like, when you go to heaven, like according to the Bible itself, like what actually happens in heaven when you die? And there is never there is never an intelligent reply. There is never like a satisfying reply, because if you read the Bible and you read what the Bible says about heaven, heaven is a place that is essentially hell, where the people that are quote unquote righteous end up. They end up. There is no day, there is no night in heaven. Everybody prays, like everybody, like you, for the rest of eternity, for the rest of time, they'll just continue. Like the people that end up in heaven just continue worshiping God forever and ever and ever and ever. And then you ask yourself, why? Like, does that not sound kind of fucked up to you? Like, you that you're a Christian, like does that not sound like hell to you? Like, you don't, is it that you're no longer going to have any free will? You're just going to be this like vessel that your sole purpose is to continue to worship God forever and ever and fucking ever without any stop. Because in the Bible it talks about how there will be no night, there will be no day. The only thing that will exist will just be the light from God, and Christians will worship God forever without any stopping. And what if you're a Christian and then you have you have friends or family members that don't make it to heaven? Maybe they end up in hell. Like, is it that is God going to make you forget your family members that are in hell? And is that even ethical for God to brainwash you? As in, isn't that brainwashing itself? That God will just make you to forget your family member and you will not remember them, and then they will just continue suffering without you having any memory of them? Is that like, how does that does not compute? Like, how is that how are you okay with that? How are you satisfied with that? You understand? Like, also there are other versions of heaven where they say like they are like the streets will be paved in gold and you have your own mansion in heaven. Like, is it that everybody that makes it to heaven will have their own like individual mansion? And if so, like, who built these mansions? Like, do these mansions come with like plumbing? Do they have like heaters in them, or air conditions, or are there TVs, or like what actually happens in heaven? If you're a Christian, please help me answer this question. If you're a Christian and you're watching this, right, help me understand what actually happens in heaven when you go there, because it doesn't make much sense to me. There's no much sense to it. And people that believe it, and this is another reason why I don't take the whole idea of Christianity seriously, because regardless of how you look at it, regardless of whatever interpretation of heaven that you come up with, none of it makes sense. Because, okay, now another example I want to give is like the angels in heaven, right? The angels they've been known to not have free will. So that means they're slaves, right? They're slaves to God, and they do whatever God asks them to do. Like in the Bible, you see where God tells angels to go and like butcher, or should I say kill, help in battles, and then angels help the Israelites in battles. Or God tells angels to go and kill someone, and then the angel goes to kill someone. Or God tells the angel, like in Egypt, when the spirit sometimes they are called the spirit of God, right? But I always interpret them as like the angels that God sends, but they can also be his spirit. And so imagine you as an angel now entering Egypt and killing all the firstborns in Egypt without any question. Like, what kind of God creates servants that don't have free will? Like, why will a God do that? And so when one of the angels manages to disobey, not even disobey, manages to sum up the courage to have free will for himself, to think for himself, to go against what God wants, God banishes him from heaven. Right? God throws him, like, this is like, I'm talking about Lucifer. God casts Lucifer out of heaven. And not only Lucifer, like, this is somebody that let's assume that like Lucifer to me is somebody that is like is a freedom fighter, is a rebel, right? And so maybe he was tired. He eventually became tired of the whole being God's slave thing, right? God does not want question. This is the whole idea of God. Like God, the whole idea of the Christian God is this being that doesn't want to be questioned. He doesn't want you to think for yourself. He doesn't want you to, to be your own person. He doesn't want you to be an individual. He just wants you to be a vessel that consistently gives him praise and worship. Do you understand? You don't even have to be quote unquote good. The only kind of good that you have to be is his own version of what good is, right? Because when God says thou shalt not kill, he's not talking about that you should not that it is bad to kill. He's just saying that you should not kill when he hasn't asked you to kill. You understand? Because after the whole story of the Ten Commandments, like the Christians, like the Jews, the Israelites actually, they did a lot of killing, right? But it was not a problem for God. But it only became a problem when they didn't do it the way that he actually wanted them to do it. Like even when they went on when they went on battles, right? If he told them to like wipe out everybody in a fucking village, if God told, like when God told King Saul, to wipe out every single person in every single thing, not even person, bro, every single living thing in existence in that village. But King Saul disobeyed. He killed everybody, but he didn't kill the women and he did not kill the animals. And God was angry with him. So when God talks about, when the Ten Commandments was talking about thou shalt not kill, that's what actually God means. It doesn't mean that you should be so altruistic that you don't harm another living thing. No. What it means is that you can kill, but do it the way I want you to do it. Because if you don't do it the way I want you to do it, I'm going to fuck the fuck out of you. So Lucifer was not even the only person that like God like casted out of heaven. This is somebody that's, like I was saying, he's a freedom fighter, right? And even though the story is not complete, the story is like incomplete in the Bible, and it's kind of like fuzzy. From the best understanding or from my own interpretation of it, right? I'm sure he must have like gathered people, or like gained support from a lot of other angels, and these are the angels also that God also casted out from the heaven alongside Lucifer, right? So these are angels that I'm sure kind of like developed free will for themselves. They wanted freedom for themselves. They were tired of the whole being a slave thing, and they just didn't want it, and so they sided with Lucifer to try to whatever it is must have happened in heaven that time. So there was war in heaven, and then I'm sure maybe like according to how they talk about how it's the victors that always write history. So whatever it is in the Bible, or however the story came out, it turned out that they were cast out of heaven, they lost the battle, and then God like threw them out of heaven, and that is the story that we have today. But it might not have been the truth. You understand? It's just it might not have been the truth, because if you investigate the Bible and you table out the amount of people that God killed in the Bible versus the amount of people that the devil killed in the Bible, you see that God killed 1,001 more people than the devil ever did, right? So it doesn't even look to me like the devil is the bad guy in the Bible. In fact, when the devil was like in the story of Job, let me give you another example. Like in the story of Job, right, where God asked him, like, where have you been? He said he has been like the ends of the earth, and God asked him, have you considered my servant Job? And the devil was like, or should I say the accuser, because the Bible didn't actually say that whether he was the devil or whether he was Lucifer or whether he was Satan. The Bible just called him the accuser. Said, well, he only loves you because of what you've done for him, and because you've made him rich and wealthy and all this stuff. And so God had a bet with the devil. Yeah, because see, it is not when Christians think that God is good, like God is not a good guy. The God of the Bible is not a good guy. He's not a good guy. He's evil. And there have been explanations in the Bible that that make that point very clear, that the God of the Bible is not good. He's not what especially Nigerian Christians think he is. That he's this omnipotent person or omnipotent figure or this all good. Like God cannot, like the God of this world, or should I say, the God cannot be all good, because if he's all good, he cannot be all powerful. And if he's all powerful, he cannot be all good. So he has to choose. There has to be like a balance to it. The God of the Bible cannot be all good, because there is no such thing as a good king. So he said he made a bet with the devil and told the devil to fuck Job's life up, but don't take his life. Don't touch his life. And imagine where a scenario where God sides, as in God makes a bet with the devil over your life. Let me even ask Christians. You know how Christians always talk about how, God, like the one that pains me the most, when Christians talk about how God spoke to me. I heard the voice of the Lord tell me to do this and that. And, I obeyed the voice of the Lord. That is a lie. That is a giant lie. That is a big fucking lie. Because where God has spoken to people in the Bible, where God has actually talked to people in the Bible, it always comes off as, there is always like an ulterior motive to it. Like, for example, when God told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, or there are so many instances in the Bible where God talks to someone and that it never comes out as in their life is changed. Their life is changed forever, whether for good or for bad. So when you hear Nigerian Christians talk about how God told them to do this and that, it's a lie, because the God of the Bible can never tell you to do something, so superficial and so trivial and so easy. It's not true. Every instance in the Bible where God talks to people, the kind of task that he gives them is not everyday task. Christians have that is what I mean by when I say Christians have reduced God to a genie. Christians have reduced God to a genie, where God has become their servant. God has become their personal assistant. God has become their genie, essentially, that answers their prayers for them, that grants them magical wishes, that grants them, I don't know, just is stupid. They have this reductionist idea of God, and it's insulting to the actual creator of the universe. Like it's that if I was the creator of this universe, will I even care enough to find it insulting? I don't even know. That is to show, like, my whole idea of God, right? My own personal, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. But especially, I don't believe in the Christian God, because the idea of the Christian God is so reductionist and so simplistic and so actually insulting to my own idea of what God should be. You understand? My own idea of what God should be carries a lot of weight to it. There is this kind of cosmic fear that comes with it, this kind of cosmic reverence that comes with it. And so it's not the same with what Christians believe in. It's not the same with what Christians read in their religious text. It's not the same at all. It's not the genie that Christians always literally rub their hands or rub their palms for. Is not the same thing. When you hear Christians talk about when you hear Christians saying that that God spoke to them, it's crazy. It sounds crazy and it sounds stupid, and it's always a lie. Because if God actually speaks to you, he's not going to he's not going to talk to you about your marriage. Your marriage, my own idea of God is not concerned about your stupid marriage. My own idea of God is not concerned about your job. My own idea of God is not concerned about whether you've paid your rent, or whether you jerked off last night, or whether you're a good person, or whether somebody is kind to you, or whatever. No, my own idea of God is menacing. You understand? There is always a HP love. There is almost a Lovecraftian aspect to it. My own idea of God is almost Lovecraftian in nature. So God will not come and tell you that, or as in, when Christians lie, because it's always a lie, right? When Christians lie that God spoke to them, it's always something stupid. It's always something that that revolves around their life. It's always something that has to do with their it's always something that has to do with their own selfish gain. it's always something that has to do with their own selfish gain, and it's very, very stupid. I don't like it. God does not speak to you. Like, for example, now this stupid Adeboye that was saying one time that when he was having tea with God, like, this is, bro, Christians are actually lucky. Christians are actually lucky that the God of the Bible does not exist, because if we talk about the God of the Bible and the way the God of the Bible behaves and how he fucks people up nonchalantly, he fucks people up. Like, your life is nothing to him. Your life is meaningless to him. In fact, he derives joy from you losing your life. He derives pleasure from you losing your life. That's to the point where if you just make any mistake, like if you go, bro, Moses that led the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses, the chosen one, like Moses himself, that led the children of Israel out of Egypt, right? God told him to, what did he even say? God told him to place his rod on the rock, and then water will come out of it. And because the children of Israel were kind of complaining that they were thirsty, and so God told Moses to like place his staff on the rock, and so that water will come out of it, and then they will drink. But because of their complaining and because of their constant nagging and how always ungrateful they are, Moses was so angry, and so he hit his staff on the rock. The water came out, but God was like, bruh. God didn't take it like, as in God was like, this is how narcissistic God is. This is how psychopathic the God of the Bible is, right? This is how, as in, he does not, like, bro, the God of the Bible is fucked up. He's a psychopath. He's an actual psychopath. And he did not, that little thing that Moses did, that little tiny mistake that Moses did, that he struck the rock, instead of like patting it, he struck the rock. God said, you're not entering the promised land. That is the God of the Bible for you. You're not entering the promised land. Forget that I gave you the power to part the seas. Forget that I gave you the power to bring down fire from heaven. Forget that I gave you the power to destabilize the entire Egyptian society. Forget all of that. Because of this tiny mistake that you did, you're not entering the promised land. You're going to die. That is the God of the Bible for you. The God of the Bible that said, bro, he told Lot and he told Lot and his family that when they're leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, don't turn back. Like, he does not mince his words. Do you understand? Like, the God of the Bible, if you read your Bible very well, he does not mince his words. If he tells you to do something, do it the exact same way that he wants. He's that psychopathically perfectionist. Like, he's that much of a psychopathic perfectionist. Like, he wants you to do it the exact same way that he has explained it and he has instructed you to do it. And if you don't do it, there will always be consequences. You understand? There will always be consequences. God does not send you. He does not send your papa. Who are you? Like, he does not send you at all. So there are many other examples. Like, for example, where when the Israelites were carrying the Ark of the Covenant, right? And Uzziah, the Ark of the Covenant was about to fall, and Uzziah, like, just out of human reflexes, he held onto the Ark of the Covenant so that it wouldn't fall, and God killed him. He does not want your help. That is another thing again that Christian. He does not, like, the God of the Bible does not send you. He just does not. You don't matter. That is the truth of it. Christians always think that they are so special and they are so loved by God and they are just they are God's number one priority. He does not send you at all. He will fuck you up without even you know that meme about like when Scarlet Witch approached Thanos and was like, you took everything from me, and Thanos was like, I don't even know who you are. That is just the same way with how the Christian God is with the Christians, right? They always think that they are so special and they are so beloved by God, but in reality, it's not like the way the Bible portrays it. It's just not how it is. Like, this guy was trying to help. He was trying to help, and God fucked him up, killed him killed him without any questions. Even David. Like, bro, there are a lot of examples I can give that somebody that God uses people. Do you understand? He's like this conniving trickster that uses people and then ends up discarding them, ends up just like throwing them away. He's like Mephisto in Marvel. Like, this is just how God is. So when all these pastors that talk about how they're so, they're always speaking with God, like they are lucky, because the God of the Bible actually does not exist. Because if he actually existed and they are taking his name in vain like this, there is this much disorganization, there is this much confusion, there is this much, ridicule. Like the entirety of the Christian church has lost its sacredness. Christianity now has become a joke, like an actual joke. If you just look at how churches are run, not even only in Nigeria, like also in America. Let me just give you, like in America now is another example. Like all these televangelists with their fake miracles and their fake healing potions and their nonsense talks and their own like bad interpretations of the Bible, right? It doesn't look to me like there is anybody in charge. It doesn't. If I'm the CEO, if Christianity was a company and I am the CEO of the company and I see my subjects just mishandling my company, I won't take it lightly with any of them, right? So, but that is just, and people like to give the excuse that God is patient. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. They're just mirroring their own idea of what God is. It is not true. He will fuck you up for real. Like, honestly speaking, like the God of the Bible will fuck you. You're not special. You're not special. So that is another thing again, another reason again why I don't believe in God. Because if the God of the Bible actually exists, right, they will be so scared. They'll be too afraid of him to take his name in vain, to joke with his name like that. They'll be too afraid of the God of the Bible to deceive people. Because they've been put in positions where they are leaders, where they are to lead people into righteousness. They are to lead people to God. You understand? They are to direct people. They are to help people. They are to assist people. They are the leaders that supposedly that have been put on this earth to guide the flock. Because the Bible talks about how Christians are flocks of sheep. So these pastors are supposed to be the shepherds, right? To guide people to the right path. But they're just mishandling the whole thing. They're just deceiving people. They are stealing from people. They are scamming people. They are giving people wrong advice. They are destroying homes. They are destroying societies. They are not speaking up when it comes to societal issues and when it comes to corruption in government and all these things. They're just, I'm sorry about my kata. Like I have perpetual kata. So I'm sorry if it's kind of like, if it's sounding uncomfortable to you, but I've tried my best to try to get rid of it, but there's nothing I can do. It is what it is. So I'm sorry if I keep sniffing, and I don't like it actually. It sounds disgusting, but I wish I could pray about it. So anyways, all these fucking pastors, man, they've ridiculed Christianity into the grave. Like it's the Christianity, there is no more. It's no longer sacred. You understand? It's just so disrespectful now. It has become like it's almost now as bad as Islam. I mean, Islam is another problem on its own, but Christianity has gotten to the point where it's entering into the realm of mythology. Nobody takes it seriously again. The only people that find themselves becoming Christians are people that are people that have had bad lives or have had bad experiences in life, and so Christianity is the only thing that makes sense enough for them, and so it gives them solace, and so they run towards it. But as time goes on, like, yes, Christianity is like the first. Don't get me wrong, there are good aspects, there are good parts, there are good things that Christianity comes with, right? I see it as like the first wash of something that is dirty. So when these people that have had bad experiences in life run to Christianity, it helps them to get better to a certain point. But after that certain point, there is usually something as in if they're sensible enough actually, because most of them remain in that level of that first wash, because that's where, as in that is where they are most comfortable with. So they don't leave that. But if they are sensible enough, you see that these people end up like opting out of the entire idea of it, because they realize that it doesn't make sense. They realize that it is historically inaccurate. They realize that it is not true. They realize that most of the things in the Bible were written by different people at different points in time. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that life is just going to be pessimistic at the end of the day. Just because I don't believe in God doesn't mean that my life, I'm just going to take life pessimistically, or I'm just going to see life as empty, or as not worth living, or as just bland like that. No, there are other things that to me fills in that whole, that because I mean, I used to be a believer, I used to be a Christian, right? But once I gave up my faith, there was a hole there. But there are other things that fill that hole. Things like music. I mean, one thing again that Christians you have to understand is that just because of how the music in church makes them feel, it is not proof that God exists. You understand? Like when you go to church and then first of all, Christian music is dumb. God, Christian music is boring. Like Christian music, I've never liked Christian music, because for people who claim to be worshippers of the one true God, there is never, they don't have this. There is no creativity in things that they do, in their music, in their way of life, in their sermons. Like there is no creativity. They follow pop culture. They follow what is trending. They follow what is in vogue. They follow the popular thing. It's just weird. You're not supposed to be a follower. You're supposed to be a leader, right? So you see, like all these Christian pop songs, they try to emulate pop culture. They try to follow pop culture. They try to sing the way like R&B artists sing, and it's sad. It's like really, really sad. So I've never liked Christian songs, but to the ones that enjoy it, like when they go to church and the music is playing and the music is loud and everybody's in tune with themselves, and then they have this like euphoric feeling, right? They always mistake it to be the Spirit of God, but that's wrong, because it's the same feeling that you get when you go to a concert, when you're listening to your favorite music. It's the same feeling that you get. That's feeling, that goosebumpy kind of feeling that you get when you're listening to music. So that's how, like, music, and I mean good music. I don't mean like noise. I don't mean Nigerian music. Actually, I'm talking about actual good music that speaks to the soul, because this is what music is. Music, I believe, is one of the many languages of the soul, and it takes the right music to unlock, like to get the soul to get the soul going. And so this is one of the things that to me fills that hole. Another thing again that that I used to try to get a better understanding of what the idea of what God is obviously psychedelics. Christians always, or should I say Nigerians in general, frown on the use of psychedelics. Like they see it as, if you take psychedelics, you're a bad person, you're evil, you're a wayward person. They disrespect it in every way, but because they don't have an understanding for it. In the past, right, in the Catholic Church in the past, their incense, they used to use cannabis for their incense in Catholic Church, and this was a way of them to get closer to God, right? If you like, smoking weed was a way of, or should I say burning incense, cannabis incense was a very good way of them to get closer to God, to open themselves to God, right? This was when the idea of God was a lot more prominent than it is today. The idea of God was a lot more sacred than it is today, because today it has been trivialized. Today it has been bastardized. Like I call it neo-Christianism. You understand? That is the name I've given it. Like what people practice today is actually not Christianity. It is neo-Christianism. It's a new kind of Christianity, and there is no substance to it, there is no depth to it, there's no realness to it. There's no tangibility to it. It's just all performative. It's just all superficial. It's just all for the sake of clout and for the sake of social media points. That's what they do. That's what neo-Christianism is actually. Also, if you infuse that also with apologetics and all these intellectuals that try to explain what God is, that is just, it's a sad thing what Christianity has turned out to be. Like if you can look at what Christianity used to look like in the past and compare it to what it looks like today, I don't think that anybody would want to associate themselves with what it is today. Because today it's sad. Christianity is sad. So on the issue of psychedelics, right? It's something that Nigerians frown on, something that Nigerians, detest, that Nigerians don't like. But I believe wholeheartedly that psychedelics, because Nigeria is a country that the entire psyche of Nigerians has been fucked up. It's been destroyed. Like the thought process of the average Nigerian. Like there is this story that came out the other day in Nigeria where somebody killed his sister, and I'll tell you why. So this guy, right? They gave him money to pay his sister's school fees. They gave him 45,000 naira to pay his sister's school fees. 45,000 naira will be like $30, right? $30. Let's just round it up to $30. So just imagine that 45,000 naira is $30. And so they gave him 45,000 naira to pay his sister's school fees, right? But this guy decided to spend the money. I don't know what he spent the money on. It's most likely going to be betting, because gambling is another issue in Nigeria that nobody is talking enough about, right? So the guy decided to spend the money, and then he wasted the money. And when they now started asking him for the money, like because she had not paid the school fees, when they now started asking him for the money, instead of him to maybe say that he lost the money, instead of him to maybe say that he's going to pay the money and then look for a way to get the money and then pay it, instead of him to say that, just come up with something, just say something, right? Instead of him, just say something, bro. Just say something and give yourself enough time to get the money. Instead of him he could have done any of that. He could have done any of that, bro. What he decided to do was to kill his sister. To kill his sister so that he will not pay the school from card. Hey! Oh, no. Sorry, I'm sorry that I'm laughing. You understand? I'm sorry for laughing, but like, he decided to kill his, like, not that he decided to, I don't know, man. I don't know. Bro, he decided to kill his sister, like, to end her life. His sister, bro, his actual blood sister, he decided to kill her so that he will not pay $30 school fees. Bro, what's... I don't understand, man. This is to tell you how damaged the psyche of Nigerians are, man. We have, like, hardship in Nigeria has fucked us up totally to the point where we cannot think straight in Nigeria. We no longer have the ability to think straight, to be logical in Nigeria. That is how fucked up we are. So I wholeheartedly believe that psychedelics can bring us back. If, I don't know, in some alternate universe, some alternate Nigeria, psychedelics can be, introduced into the medical system, right? I don't know how that is going to be possible, but it just happens to be possible, and then it is introduced, and people, go for psychedelic therapy, maybe twice in 3 months, 6 times in 4 times in 6 months. Make it something, like, incorporate it into the culture. Do you understand? And it is something that we used to do in the past. Don't even get me wrong, man. Psychedelics is something that used to be part of the culture in the past. It is how we used to be able to speak to the gods. It is how we used to be able to communicate with our deities in the past, bro. But religion came and just destabilized the entire thing, man. And now when people are in psychedelic trances, when people are in psychedelic states, they either call them crazy, or they say that they're using juju, or they say that they are demonic. We are living in an upside down world. So I feel like I wholeheartedly believe actually that if you can incorporate it into our culture again and make it something that people do on a regular basis, I believe that the country will be sane again. Like, people will come back to their senses. People will have sense. People will be a lot more in tune with nature, a lot more in tune with themselves, and consequently, a lot more in tune with the divine. I'm not even talking about God, I'm talking about the divine. That's Lovecraftian idea of what I think God is. Not Lovecraftian in the sense that it's like scary or, evil, but I just mean Lovecraftian in the sense that it is so profound and so and just so grandiose and so fucking incomprehensibly comprehensible. That's fucking like bro, that's what I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know if there are even words that can put it in context, but for people who are familiar with Lovecraft's work, right, when you read any of his stories, you end up with more questions than answers, right? And like, it's something that is bigger than us. It's something that is grander than us. It's something that is more intelligent than us. It doesn't even necessarily want to have a relationship with us. It's just something that human beings come in contact with, and it changes their lives. You understand? And it leaves them asking questions forever. So this is my own idea of what God is, man. Like, for example, now people that take LSD, or people that have done DMT, or people that have done this thing, have taken peyote, people that have taken magic mushrooms, people that have done any kind of psychedelic therapy, the entities that they come in contact with, the things that they see, the worlds that they find themselves in, like where they go to, it changes them, right? It changes them on a fundamental level, like on a fucking microscopic level. Like, people that have encountered these things, people that have experienced these things, it's like they are more connected to God. You understand? They are more, they have a broader understanding of what the idea of God should be, and they live their lives according to it. It is not as trivial and as simplistic as just being a Christian. That is not what it is at all. It's deeper than that. Is fucking deeper than that. And so I wish that I can introduce psychedelics. I wish that there is a way I can introduce psychedelic therapy to Nigeria and to Nigerians, because it will help us. It will help a lot, because the mindset of Nigerians, man, it's been damaged. Like, it's been damaged. You know, when your you know, when your prefrontal cortex has been destroyed because of watching too much porn or something. That is how fucked up the mind of Nigerians are. So that is one of the things, the many things I actually want to do. Like, another thing again I always talk about is ibogaine therapy. You know, Nigerians have been addled and riddled with a lot of, they've been predisposed to addiction in so many forms. And so I think that introducing ibogaine therapy to Nigerians can also help. Do you understand? So these are so many things I have just been thinking about. Finally, the last thing that makes me not to believe in God, the Christian God, is when I started to lose my faith, right? You know, I started to read books, I started to listen to, I started to listen to people talk. I started to listen to intellectuals, atheists like Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Stephen Hawkins. I started reading their books, right? And so I started to get broader perspectives and better understandings of nature, not even only nature, like better understandings of like the historicity of Christianity itself. And my worldview expanded. So books helped me, right? And all these brilliant people they also like contributed to me losing my faith, and me not just me getting a broader understanding and perspective of the whole thing. But there are two that did it for me. There are two people that did it for me. First person is George Carlin, like the comedian, right? George Carlin. And we all, anybody that knows about his famous religion comedy beats, right? His beat about religion, and what he said about it, as funny as it was, or as funny as it is, it just broke down the entirety of the relevance of Christianity to me. It just made me understand that, oh, we have been fooled. Nigerians have been fooled. Like, we have been deceived for a very, very fucking long time. It's very, very funny. If you have not watched it, I urge you to go and listen to it. It's funny and it's insightful and it makes a lot of sense and it gives you a lot of perspective and it makes you understand and realize that, yeah, Christianity is dumb. Then the final person that did it for me, the one and only Carl Sagan. I don't even know where to start about Carl Sagan, man. Man, bro. Carl Sagan, the brilliant scientist. The person, he's the one that did it for me. His famous speech about the pale blue dots is what changed my mind. Because I love science. I'm a science advocate and I love space. I mean, who doesn't love space? Like, I love space. I love the whole mystery of space. I love the whole, like, there's so much that we don't know about it. But yet we just long to know, right? And so when Carl Sagan talks about space, when in his famous pale blue dots speech, right, and the way he talked about it, the way he talked about our place in the universe, our place on this, our position on this earth, our inadequacies, our longing for a parent figure, our shortcomings, the fact that everybody that has ever existed ever has lived on these pale blue dots. That speech, man, is what changed my life. And I was like, bro, everybody that has ever lived on this world lived on this tiny speck of dust suspended in a sunbeam, man. And then there's something else that he said that just like that broke me and rebuilt me and just like just made me me. He said, "Man in his arrogance thinks himself a great work, worthy of the interposition of a deity. Characteristically, we seem compelled to project our own nature onto nature." If you've not, I don't know. I just lost myself now. If you have not listened to it, bro, just go and listen to it. It will change your life. It will change your entire perspective. If you're a Nigerian, it will like give you a whole new meaning of what it means to be a human being. Because even though we are insignificant in the grand scheme of things, right? Even though we are insignificant and we are just organisms floating on an atom, our planet is infinitesimally small. If you could ask, our planet can be destroyed. And nothing in the universe, not even in the universe, nothing in our galaxy will change. Nothing in our galaxy will feel different. Our planet can get wiped out and nothing will happen. Anyway, that's all I can say. That's all the reasons I have for not being a Christian as a Nigerian. And my reason for not being a Christian is not because I'm angry at God, or because I'm not wealthy, or because I'm not rich, or I'm not yet successful. My reasons for not being a Christian is because there is a lot that is wrong with Christianity, the idea of Christianity, and I don't have the time to, I don't want to waste my time on any of it. I don't want to waste my time on something that I know for a fact is not real. So that's that about that, man. Thank you guys for chilling with me. Thank you for giving me your listening ears. If you found this interesting, if you found this entertaining, and you feel like you want to support me and you want to see more, follow me on YouTube, subscribe if you want to see more. Actually, leave your comments below, leave a like on the video, because that helps me out a lot. Also follow me on Twitter at General Prime 1. And yeah, that's all the social media I have, man. Also share this with people you think might also find it interesting. Rate the podcast on Spotify, and that is just it, man. Thank you guys for chilling with me. Thank you for giving me your listening ears. Follow me if you want to see more. Like, I don't know why YouTube just keeps suppressing my fucking channel, and they don't show it to anybody. They don't recommend it to anybody. It's just there. I'm the only one doing the work manually, trying to tell people about it. So, but if you listen to it to this point and you enjoyed it, just help me share it. And I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm trying to grow myself, basically. So thank you for all your support. Thank you for chilling with me. Thank you for giving me your listening ears. And I'll talk to you guys next time. All right. Bye, everybody.